and welcome to the Visionary VA podcast, the go-to show for ambitious virtual assistants who are ready to stop trading their time for money and start scaling their businesses into thriving agencies. I'm Holly Copsey, founder of the award-winning agency Virtually Priceless and the Visionary VA Circle community. Each week, I'm here to bring you actionable strategies, proven systems, and mindset shifts to help you transition from a solo VA to a visionary agency owner. If you're ready to grow your business to dizzying new heights with less stress and more success, you're in the right place. Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of the Visionary VA podcast. I am so excited today to be joined by Jane Scroggs, who leads Beam Virtual Property Support and Eave Assistance, two property-focused VA agencies with a combined team of 25 virtual assistants. They handle tenancy admin, maintenance and project management for landlords and letting agents, streamlining processes, reducing compliance risks and freeing up time for portfolio growth. Before founding Beam in 2020, Jane worked in the property industry as an executive assistant in London and Monaco and helped develop Podville, a shipping container office project in Bristol. Her extensive property experience naturally led her to niche in supporting UK property professionals. Jane, welcome. So great to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Brilliant. Right, we'll dive straight in then. So could you start off, please, by telling us, firstly, why do you have two VA agencies? How did they come about? And what are the differences with those two businesses?
Okay, great question. So the first business, as you mentioned, I started in 2020. And after, 4 years, I think it was. So last year I started the second agency. So first 4 years building the business, obviously going from solo VA to having a team very niched in the property space. That brings its own challenges, which I'm sure we can talk about throughout the podcast. But I felt like it was very niche with a typical client, quite difficult to find really good team members because they had to have a really specific level of experience and knowledge and also be good virtual assistants. So at the same time, I think it was early last year, I just felt like I needed to bring something new to my business, to personally to me. I felt a bit stale, if I'm honest, because we were so niched, it's quite hard to scale that business. So tried a few ideas, new different niches perhaps within the property space. And at the same time, I was having conversations with a property CRM provider, very industry niched, about problems they were having with onboarding users into their CRM, people adopting the software, learning the software, and that they saw an opportunity for maybe us to work together. So help learn the CRM, which we were using anyway, to be honest, with a lot of clients, learn the CRM, guide their clients through the process of onboarding, really expanding all the features so that they would be sticky and use the CRM and obviously be raving fans. We would help them through that process and also support them with a lot of the property admin that we were doing anyway. So really, we started to look at the letting agency niche through that CRM provider and created a partnership, as in a not a formal partnership, but sort of a referrals and just great to collaborate with.
Yeah.
So we also started looking at the letting agent niche, which we'd looked at before, but the nature of letting agency, it's quite low margin, and the UK model didn't really fit in terms of cost. So we thought, okay, how can we do this? So what can we do? So we thought, well, it's an opportunity to scale. So a different type of team member is needed at a different cost level. So we looked at overseas team, which is something I'd honestly always resisted, if I'm honest. I was always very much like UK team, UK property professionals, and that's why we still run that agency, because it is highly experienced people that can just go into a business, tell the client what needs to be done and do the work as well at the same time and guide the client. But obviously, a lot of people in the industry quite like overseas support, from a cost perspective. So we thought, okay, how can we incorporate this? Let's be open to these opportunities. And at the same time, I actually had a South African VA who is fantastic. And I realised through working with her how much she knew about the property industry in the UK from her time spent at letting agency. And I realised there's a lot of South Africa team members working in the UK market, which I hadn't realised. So we started to tap into that market for fractional support, not part-time, full-time, but pretty much as we were doing with the UK team, 20, 30 hours a month, using the overseas team and then servicing those letting agent clients that came through the CRM. So it's a different team, a different niche sort of. There is some crossover, but they are quite different. So that's how the second agency came about. And now we run both side by side.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, I know how hard running one business is, so I take my hat off to you for doing it with two. But it's great.
I do wonder.
Yeah. And it's great that you're covering both ends of the spectrum there, right? It must be really interesting to work with such different markets. Awesome. So can you also share a bit more about your journey from employee to VA agency owner in the first place, and what actually led you to make that transition away from the world of employment to having your own business?
Well, I actually left employment, I would say actual employment, in 2013. So as you mentioned on the intro, I'd worked for a property entrepreneur for, I think it was about 8 years employed, worked in London, in Monaco, and in around 2013, I felt like I needed a life change. So I left Monaco, I left the work, and I came back to the UK. And I started to sort of look at what the things I could do. I did a bit of admin, a bit of temping as a PA, did some coach training. I got into an entrepreneurial group, which was really transformative to me. So it was looking at spirituality combined with business. And I learned so much from this mentor at the time about what it meant to run a business. And so I started looking at different business opportunities, but the PA agency niche kept coming to me, and I thought, no, I can't do this. I can't manage people. It's just too much. Roll on a few years' time. So, but in that time, I also worked. I was always linked to the property sector. So as I mentioned, the most of my career had been supporting a property entrepreneur and actually getting quite hands-on with some of the work in terms of the developments and things. I also supported a investor relations role, a property developer in London. So I had quite a big, she was very popular and big on social media. So I had a lot of visibility through working with her, and started to do my own developments as well, the shipping container office block and some office refurbs. And so I was always doing sort of remote, part-time, different roles, business development roles. So it's been a long time since I was employed. So I didn't jump straight from one to the other. And I think for me, I found it quite easy to set my own business up. I've always had that mindset of, let's just try it. I haven't been fearful with taking the leap. And I do appreciate why it can be fearful. I've just never really felt that fear. I've always just thought, right, let's just try it. What's the worst that can happen?
Just do it. Absolutely. And
let's do it. Doesn't mean I've never, I wouldn't say I've had a great financial cushion to try. It's just, I've just felt like, let's just go for it. And I'm always grateful of that I have that perspective, because I think it's served me in just trying things. I've tried lots of different businesses, and this is probably well, it is the most successful and the one I've stuck with for longest. So
amazing. Awesome. So what's your day-to-day role in your businesses? How do you spend your time?
That's a really good question. Probably where I shouldn't. I spend a lot of time in a lot of time in the admin, actually, which I'm trying to move out of. So typically, I guess, solving problems, which is important as a business owner anyway, but team challenges, questions within the team to do with industry. So legislation, the property industry has a lot of legislation, so we have to be very careful that we're adhering to that legislation. So helping the team, asking for advice within our team. The beauty is that we have obviously lots of people within the team with lots of experience at different levels, but all are experienced. So and everyone has a perspective on best practice, etc. So spending a lot of time helping team members, obviously doing contracts. I still do all of that side of things. A bit of business development. I think I do wonder where my time goes, if I'm honest. That is one of my challenges for this year, or goals for this year, is to be more structured with my time
Yeah,
and spend it more efficiently.
it's so tough, isn't it? Do you track your time for yourself?
No, no,
Oh,
I
that's
don't.
definitely a top tip. I still do that, and yeah, I find it's quite an eye opener. I think sometimes just to see, because you have those days where you think, where am I? Where has the time gone? I had 8 hours sat at my desk. What's going on? And it's very
Yeah,
easy, isn't it, just to get really bogged down in the admin. And yeah, I do try to always make sure I carve out a couple of hours for sort of BD and working on a particular project, but it's very easy to eat into that.
that's
So
very true.
do you still do any client work at all, or are you totally focused on actually running the business?
I no, I'm totally focused on the business. I
Brilliant. Well,
gave up client work a year after setting up the business.
amazing.
Since the first associate came on,
Yeah.
it was a big, obviously, financial, well, a loss in income, should we
Yeah,
say, obviously.
absolutely.
And but I felt like I needed to do it because I couldn't focus and build a business.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I guess I wasn't, I've never been a great lover of admin, if I'm honest. My skill set is the problem solving, seeing the business development, the speaking to people, the ideas, and actually
Mhm.
sitting down doing the admin was always the least favorite part of being a virtual assistant. So as soon as I could, I moved away from that because I think
Yeah.
at the business I wasn't the best person to be in that business doing that role.
Yeah, and that's such a good way of looking at it, isn't it? And it's great that you recognize that so early on, because I think a lot of people, myself included, you can get bogged down in that for a long time. And it took me quite a while to extract myself from client work. And I wish I'd done it sooner. That's kind of one of the top tips I give to people. And it is a
Hmm.
really hard move, but you've already shown how fearless you can be with making that decision to do it in the first place. So I think the fact that you've also taken that leap, even though it's actually financially going to really cause you to take a hit in the early days, in the long run, it sets you up in such good stead. And clearly, you've been able to grow the business much more quickly than you would have done if you were bogged down in client work every day.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
it.
So, what are the
Yeah.
things that you're still doing on a regular basis, but perhaps you know that you shouldn't be? Do you have much help internally in the business?
I do have a VA, and she does help me with a lot of the bits and pieces of the admin. But I think one thing I really would like to pass on to someone is, I think, not team management, but team relations. I think team and
Yeah.
client relations. So making sure that everyone is checked in with regularly, putting structure around that, answering any immediate questions or problems,
Hmm.
to kind of have as a buffer from me knowing everything that's going on. And 'cause sometimes I'll be honest, I do find it quite draining if I
Yeah.
know there's a challenge with a particular client or team member, and it doesn't happen all the time. Obviously, it's rare, but sometimes when those challenges happen, I find it quite consuming, and I'd like to have some kind of buffer and someone that's better at that than me, and actually the structure and the organization. That so that's one of my focus hires for this year.
Yeah, brilliant. Can't wait to hear about you nailing that one. And where do you find your associates? Do you advertise for them, or have you met them through networking? Where have you come across your
Neither, actually,
associates?
neither. I
Okay.
headhunt them
Okay.
for Beam, for the UK, the UK team.
Yeah.
I headhunt, so LinkedIn, Facebook,
Hmm.
online. I actually have a recruitment person that helps me with that.
Hmm.
So she has a criteria. I give her the profiles of my current team.
Yeah.
So she goes on LinkedIn and has a look for them for me, and I approach them myself.
Yeah.
And I have a recruitment manager, as I mentioned, for Eve assistants.
Hmm.
So we work with her between 20 and 25 hours a month, and all she does is look on LinkedIn for team members for the overseas team,
Hmm.
as well as the UK team, but the focus is the South African team.
Yeah.
And she spends her time obviously vetting them, getting them to fill out the questionnaires, meeting them first, giving us her insights, and then if she likes them and we like the look of them in terms of their experience, their answers to the questions, then we meet them.
Yeah.
So that's how we find them. It's very proactive rather
Yeah.
than reactive.
I love that. So they really are handpicked, and that's so nice to be able to
Yeah.
give your clients that reassurance as well, that they genuinely are handpicked by you. And it sounds like you have
Yeah,
quite a rigorous process in place, and it's so
I
important, isn't
do.
it? Yeah, it's such a vital part of the process. Yeah.
Well, because we're so niched, I think we have to.
Hmm.
If we weren't so niche, then perhaps I would be more open to people applying for things. And actually, maybe that is something I have started to create an application form incorporating all of those property specific questions and
Yeah.
experience they need to have. As we grow, I think that will be one of the things is posting out there, having a live link on the website, for example, and people can actually apply.
Yeah. And I guess you probably also, now that you've made a name for yourself and you've got a large team, that actually they also help recommend people or put people in front of you that actually they know from former lives and they've come across too. So yeah, that's
That's
super
true. We
helpful.
do have a referral scheme. So if someone recommends a team member to
Mm.
me and they actually end up working with the client, then
Hmm.
I then will give a little,
Yeah.
thank you to that
Yeah.
team member.
Brilliant. Yeah, we do the same.
Do you?
Yeah. And do you have any employees at all, or is it something you'd consider for the future if not?
No, we don't have any employees. Um, would I consider it? I think so, but we're not. I don't think we're quite there at the moment,
Yeah.
actually, to do that. If I did, I think it would be that team relations piece.
Yeah.
So my partner, Taryn, is my business partner in the second business. I mean,
Hmm.
also very, very engaged with the first business too. And so he's taken on recently a lot of the sales calls. We do them together.
Yeah.
His background is sales. He used to work for large blue chip companies in telecom sales. He's a natural at the sales technique, asking the questions, etc., being curious. So he has now come on and is doing more of the sales conversations
Hmm.
and that side of things, business development, etc. So I don't think we really need someone on that side,
Yeah.
but definitely someone to do with some of the team stuff to take that off of my plate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the culture like for your team? Do you have to work hard to maintain that? Do they all sort of talk to each other? Do you have group chats? How does that sort of work?
So the UK team, I've always tried to encourage quite an open and supportive culture. And in terms of how I support them with the clients,
Mm.
in terms of how they communicate with each other, we do have a group WhatsApp.
Hmm.
Tried lots of different tools. I've tried Slack, don't use it. We just went back to WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But yeah, people they do communicate. I mean, some of the VAs there's two or three in one business, so they do communicate. They do different roles within that business, whether that's lettings, property management, operations.
Hmm.
So there is a need to communicate within that business. So within the group chat, we have questions. Can anyone recommend a really good plumber in the London area? How would you handle this eviction procedure? There's more technical questions in the group chat, which I quite like. But I find that my UK team, they're quite happy working on their own. I mean, they're all VAs in their own right. Some of them work just with my clients or our clients, and some of them have their own clients too. But I've found that they're quite happy. They don't need too much support
Yeah.
on a daily basis, so I haven't pushed that on them.
Yeah.
And with the South African team, we do give more support. So we have a buddy system to support. We check in every month with a Zoom call. With my UK team, I do a every 2-week call with them anyway, but
Hmm.
it's just a phone call. With the overseas team, it's a monthly Zoom call. So we look at what they're doing, working on. We try and find different ways that they could perhaps help the client, see problems the client might be having, help them make suggestions for more work or problems they can solve, etc.
Yeah.
But it's a work in progress, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And
Have you met many of your team in real life?
I don't think I have, not the current team. No, I
It's
haven't.
it's amazing, isn't it, that you can have,
It's so
such a
strange.
brilliant engaged team, and yeah, it works remotely. I think it's lovely if you do get to see each other,
I
but
would love
it
that. I
shows
would love
shows
that.
how well it can work even if you don't.
Yeah, I think in the next couple of years we'll have sort of a Christmas party or something.
Yeah.
But obviously the team are all over the UK, so
Yeah.
not everyone can get there.
No.
And South Africa, hopefully I'll be going out there next year. So
Oh yeah, any excuse. Definitely find a reason to do that one for sure. Brilliant. So let's talk about some of the challenges then, because it all sounds very glamorous having a big team and running a big business. But I know from personal experience, it's not always quite as rosy as it seems. So, what have been the highs and lows for you of starting your own business and growing your team?
I'll start with the highs. I think I'm the person, I realize this about myself now. I love connecting people with solutions, with other people. And that's really important to me. And I never really realized that. But I think partly that comes, I think, from being an executive assistant where you have to find solutions, or maybe that's why I was good in that role.
Yeah.
It's problem solving, it's making a match, there's an element of people pleasing in there. I mean, I think most VAs are people pleasers in my experience. I think I've had one VA that I don't think is a people pleaser, which is it's a I would love to be less of a people pleaser, but it is my
Yeah,
it's
it's
my
ingrained.
nature. So that matching of a really great solution is really rewarding. I
Yeah.
love the fact that the client gets value. It's offered to them in a really brilliant way that they don't have to try. It's like, here we go, we've got this solution for you, don't worry, we've got this. An example, so I've got a client who I've worked with for three years. I've just introduced a new, I met a guy on a discovery call. He said, I want to offload a portfolio of properties. I said, okay, well, let me think about this. So they introduced the client and the potential client together. They ended up working together on this portfolio. That just makes me happy that I just solved a lot of problems. And
Yeah.
obviously my team member has now lots more work to do, which is great.
Brilliant.
So
Win-win.
it's definitely, yeah, exactly. It's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
So the connecting, the being in service, knowing that you're providing value. But I also think the fact that I've been able to offer my team more of an income than maybe they might not have found directly.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I can say to them, would you like this client? They're happy to take that client on. They don't have to work hard to find that client. They know they're going to get paid always, immediately. I never really thought about that side of the business until one of my team said, thank you so much. You've really, at the time in my life, you came into my life and I'm so grateful. And I thought, oh, I've never really thought of that. And I was yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Really enriching, actually.
Proud moment. Yeah.
Yes. And because obviously you need those, as you know, you need
Yeah.
those highs to balance out a lot of the low points. And yeah, people management is I have found challenging. I think because I take it, I'm quite sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't easily block or compartmentalize some of the
Yeah.
challenges. I really take it on board if there's a risk of my reputation.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if something not done correctly. I mean, in fact, we've never had that, thankfully, but it's just, it's a fear. I feel very personally invested in the business
Mm-hmm.
and how people perceive us. And, sometimes personalities, it's hard to manage personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could create the perfect VA, it would have this, this and this, but that's life, isn't it? Not everyone's the same. They might have
No.
the same skills or experience, but
Yeah. And
yeah,
did you
that's
have much
hard.
experience of managing people before you started your business?
None,
No, I
none
was
at
the
all.
same. It's completely learned on the job, and it's a real roller coaster, isn't it? Because you so want to do a good job, but
Yeah,
people are very different, and I think you realise that as time goes on. Some of them need the kind of warm and fuzzy, and some of them are just very like, get things done, and trying to figure out what it is that makes them tick and what they want to get from the role is a huge part of it, I think.
definitely. I think we'll bring in Taryn into the business too. He's got a different energy to me. He's very he's quite direct.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as, I wouldn't say warm. Obviously, he's a warm person, but he's not as kind of friendly, smiley, smoother over of everything.
Yeah,
And actually, we work quite well together from that perspective, and that's been very helpful. So it's helped me be less emotionally attached to some situations,
yeah,
whereas previously, when it first happened, oh God, the sleepless nights, and obviously, as you know, time goes on and you cope with things better when they
yeah,
happen again. But I would say that's one of the lows is
yeah.
the anxiety around that.
Yeah.
that you never quite get rid of.
No, it's tough, isn't it? You're having to have tough conversations with people is hard. And
Yeah.
even if you do find that perfect VA and they're doing a great job, people have life challenges and there's all sorts of situations that crop up for them personally. And it's very hard
Yes.
to know how to react. But yeah, I think, if you're doing your best and say you genuinely care about people, doing the right thing is always the right thing, right? And it will work out in the end,
Yeah,
but it can still be tough when you're going through a situation.
definitely. I think it's just about being communicative
Mm,
and jumping on a situation as quickly as possible. For example, the team, a client match or VA match, you can just tell sometimes things change. For example, you can just sense when something kind of maybe is not
yeah,
flowing anymore. And I think it's just addressing that and being frank with the client, not hiding away.
yeah,
Sometimes you want to, but you have to. And I think when clients see you act in a constructive way, a proactive way, that you're dealing with things, that's
yeah,
where the real value comes.
yeah.
You're not just leaving them or leaving it to be, to happen and to unfold. You have to take control.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they need to know that you've got them, right? That you've got their back. And
Exactly.
actually, it's one less painful conversation they've got to have because you're dealing with it for them. So, yeah,
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
shows you're the right person for the job. So, is there anything you do differently if you had the chance to start your business from scratch?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think there is.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't think there is because, of course, I probably could have done everything faster. But actually, I stepped the business up and I worked through in a very natural way to me. When I started the business, I didn't want to be working 24/7.
Mm,
I didn't want to work weekends. Work balance is important to me. My health. I'm not one of these people that will ever get burnt out.
hmm.
I've got quite a good internal switch of right, no, we need to go and do this now. I need to make sure I'm going to the gym, walking out during the day,
Yeah.
having dinner at X time and switching off in the evening was my priority actually, rather than maybe how people think it should be. Oh, hustle, grind. No, I'm just not doing that. So
Yeah.
perhaps the business has grown more slowly than it could have done had
Hmm.
I really pushed it. But actually, I think sometimes when you force things, you don't actually have the vision. You don't see what's actually happening in front of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything's been quite organic and
Hmm.
it's unfolded in a great way. And I've learnt the lessons I need to learn for the next phase. So no, I think I'm really happy with how things have gone actually. So I
Excellent.
don't
I
think there's
love that.
anything I would change.
That's brilliant. And is so nice to hear that. I completely agree. We could all do things a bit better and like you say, a bit faster but so much of it is learning on the job. And if you hadn't had those experiences, you wouldn't be doing things the way you are now. So it's all just part of the
That's
journey,
so
isn't it?
true.
And
So true.
enjoying the journey is the thing. If you're just aiming for one goal and you're spending your whole life getting there, you're not going to enjoy it along the way. So yeah, life's too short.
Yeah, exactly. The balance helps me enjoy it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, on the property support side, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to build a business in the property industry? If there's anyone that's thinking, oh, I've got a bit of a
Mm.
background in that area, what's it like as an industry to get into?
There's a lot of legislation in the property industry. So you've got the two sides of property, or maybe three sides. You've got the sort of the sales side, buying, selling. You've got the development side, so building. You've got the letting side, so rental, etc. There's legislation with all of them. We started out really supporting all property people because it was my background. My first client came through someone recommended me, and I kind of knew her because the industry is quite small and everyone kind of knows each other to some degree,
Hmm.
which really helped me start. So because I already had that experience, I ended up doing pretty much anything in property and quickly learned that actually niching is really important, even
Yeah.
within property. So I would say to someone starting out, I think it's important you have some experience in the property industry. I think sometimes people can think, oh, it's a sexy industry to get into, but it really isn't. Behind the scenes, there's not many rich landlords, there's not many rich property investors or developers. It's hard and it's not sexy. And there's a lot of legislation. So I would say, if you're going to choose property, look at the area that you've got experience in, do your research, make sure you know a bit about what you're doing. I think, to be honest, most, in terms of clients, they're pretty much the same as any client in any industry. You get great clients, you get some that skirt around law. I think it's important to try and look at think about your values. For us, we like to work with people who are ethical,
Yeah.
actually want their property business to be thriving, not just cutting costs.
Mm-hmm.
So, the properties are nicely done up. They're careful to actually do maintenance for their clients, not trying to save money and leave people living in a horrible environment. So any clients that we find that work in that way, we kind of have to have a conversation with them and say, look, this doesn't fit with how we like to work. We make sure we do everything properly in terms of legislation, best practice, and we kind of expect our clients to follow that. So that's really important when you're working in the property industry, really understanding the legislation and how it impacts your clients. So, because you can leave them hugely exposed to risk of fine, etc. So,
Yeah, brilliant. Great advice. Thank you.
yeah.
So, future plans. What's next for Beam and Eve? What are your long-term goals?
We have a goal. We have a goal of, I think it's 1,000 hours a month for the new business, which we should hit. But that's goal by the end of the year. So we're kind of on track. So we've got a bit more marketing to do and things. And so that's one sort of tangible goal. I think also maybe hiring. I'm looking for a marketing assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Because marketing, social media is not something I enjoy. I think I'm probably quite good if I apply myself, but I don't ever really factor it in as much as I should, and it's important.
So time consuming.
Exactly. So I would like to hire a marketing assistant. So if anyone's listening, not just social media, but actually helping us, record things, coming up with ideas. So marketing, and also the internal team relations person, whatever role that means.
Yeah.
And I think also we want to expand our resources. So I've created some resources, some templates, some guides, and I would like to finally launch that this year. So it's got a bit more work to do to flesh out.
Yeah. Is this client resources?
Yes.
Yeah.
Client resources, but also possible for VAs that are coming into this industry to use with clients.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. Awesome. So what's your top tip or best piece of advice you'd give someone who is considering expanding their VA business by building a team?
Ooh, always be recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always recruit. Always have an eye on people you want to recruit, because that client role comes in. It's a horrible feeling when you can't fill that role. It's a stressful feeling when you don't have the right person or don't have anyone. And so I hate being in that position. I hate to turn away business. So always got my eye on team members. And if my team members are starting to become quite full, because one team member may only have 20 hours a month, so therefore I have to try and find another. So always having someone with an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you've met that person, I don't know how other VAs do this, and I'm not sure maybe you can provide some insights on how you do it. But so as soon as I like a VA, I send them an associate agreement, which is kind of an overarching agreement with confidentiality, ways of working, etc., etc. It's not necessarily an agreement that means they have to work with us or we are going to give them a client, but it gets everything sort of out the way, so that as soon as a client comes through, I can say to that VA, great, this is the client. Do you want to be introduced? And we can jump on a call with that client, a potential client, immediately, rather than having to sign an agreement.
Yeah.
So it's about being ready for the next step always, whether that's with team, with client. And we spent a bit of time process mapping out. So with projects, what next? You always have to tell the client and the VA what's next.
Yeah.
So there's no ambiguity, and if you can get that in your mind before it happens, then I found that really helpful. So as soon as I like a VA, we get the agreements out, and then when there's a client match, obviously agreements get signed, and then that VA has like an addendum to the agreement with the specifics of that client, the role, the hours, what we expect from them, the rate. So that's how I do it, and I'm not sure many people do that.
We certainly do. So we kind of
okay.
pre-onboard, if you like. So like you say, it's that initial kind of recruitment process. We go through that formality side of it. If we like them, they like us, we want to go ahead, but actually we don't have a role right now. We get the contract signed, but then when they actually get given a client role, and that could be months or even years, sometimes you might have people sort of on your virtual bench. And there's just not an opportunity for the right client, right? That it's got to be the right fit in terms of hours, in terms of the actual role, and the personalities. So sometimes it can take quite a long time, and it doesn't always work out that when you've got a client, they're free and vice versa. But then we're ready to hit go. It's just a case of issuing the statement of work. It's a 1-page addendum to the contract, like you say, setting out the specifics for the role, and then you can just get things going. And we do things like check their insurances and their ICO registration. All of that's done in advance, so we know that they're the right person for our team. It saves a huge amount of time. I mean, we were introduced to a new client last Thursday evening. We had the call with them on Friday. They signed the contract yesterday, and they've started with the VA today. And that's because all of those things are in place and ready. And you've got to be able to be that agile. That's going to help you win work. And we have like a little questionnaire on our onboarding as to what's your experience so far. And they've given us 10 out of 10 because it's just been slick and smoothless. And that's what you're going for. You want to make a great impression.
Absolutely.
So what character traits do you think are necessary for someone building a bigger business? Because it takes a certain kind of person, I think. Like we've talked, the people management can be quite tough, but what other character traits do you think that you have and that would make a good leader?
Yeah, I think resilience, definitely resilience. And we've touched on that.
Yeah.
I think also someone being consistent. So like you're starting a business, let's go with it, not having shiny star syndrome. We've got to have that focus and that commitment, to be honest, to see it through, because there are hard times, there are great times, but it's about building that consistency into the business. I think being able to detach and not be so controlling over every little process in the business. Ultimately, you have to, you can't create carbon copies of yourself. I mean, I want to in my case, because I wasn't a brilliant virtual assistant in my mind. But so I think you have to be able to see the characteristics in others that are important, and maybe sometimes let go of the little things that maybe, for me, it's spelling. Like, it drives me mad when someone can't spell correctly, but my team are all pretty good at that. But there might be some times where I think, you have to just let go of certain things, and not jumping in too much to control. Ultimately, you are delegating your work to other people, and I personally find it quite hard to delegate to my VA. But I think as a business, you're delegating your clients to team members, and you have to trust them, you have to support them. So I think it takes an element of detachment and awareness of any micromanaging patterns that you have. Resilience, discipline to show up every day, do what you do with the time blocking. That's my bit of discipline that I need, actually. And I think being efficient as well, like getting things done, because you can talk about doing things, but you've just got to set yourself a goal and just go for it.
And it's not glamorous, is it? All this stuff is kind of boring, but it's the boring stuff that you repeat day in, day out that actually gives you a successful business. And it's doing that whether it's good times, bad times, whatever. You've still got to show up and crack on.
Yes, there are. It's not fun every day, and it's not thrills and it's not glamour. You're right. Doing fun things like this are great. It breaks up the.
Definitely. So what do you feel running an agency model business has given you personally? You've accomplished a lot in the last few years, but what's been the big achievement for you on a personal level?
It's always good to be asked this question because it makes you actually stop and reflect, which I don't do. I definitely a sense of achievement of having built something and be building something. I have to stop and look and think, wow, okay, I'm actually running a business that's successful in terms of, we're known for what we do. We have a great reputation. We're helping lots of people. And that makes me really happy, actually. That's personal growth as well. I think seeing who I am as a business owner.
Yeah.
And actually being really proud of myself for coping with some situations, and being proud of myself for actually I think I'm a good problem solver, and I enjoy that side of things. And yeah, that's a really nice feeling. So it's given me that sense of my own strengths, which sometimes you just don't see, do you?
No.
It's given me control over my time, choosing where I want to be during the day. I wouldn't say time freedom, because for me, time freedom means you can switch off and like you're not thinking about work, and like that doesn't happen ever. So there is an element of freedom, and that for me, that was really important, which is why I got out of being a VA myself, delegating all of my clients to my team members. I enjoyed not having to get this done for this client at this particular time, or not being able to go out in the evening until I'd done that. I think I've always just been slightly rebellious with my time, and I got this kind of real need for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite a driver in me starting the agency quickly after. I was only a VA for a year, less than a year before I started taking on team members. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's just fantastic to hear. An amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today, and I wish you the best of luck with both businesses. Hopefully we can have you on again at some point and you can share the rest of the journey with us.
I would love that. Thank you, Holly.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Visionary VA podcast. I hope you're walking away with fresh ideas and inspiration to scale your VA business. Don't forget to check out our free mini course on building solid business foundations, perfect for setting your VA agency up for success without the overwhelm. You'll find the link in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next week.